Greetings! Welcome to the final episode of trying to make the 4-3-3 fifth variation work and the conclusion of our series where we looked for my personal perfect custom tactics and instructions in this formation. Now, if you've been here from episode 1, I thank you very much for coming along this journey with me. It was definitely a fun and new way to test out both content for the channel, but also a new method of trying to find tactics. Don't get me wrong though, it was a lot of work behind the scenes. Now, if this is the first episode that you watch, what we did was tinker with my tactics and instruction episode by episode, and in doing that we kept track of a bunch of different stats from goals scored, conceded, shots taken, conceded, contributions for every position, and how they would change and play off of each other episode by episode. And all of this led us to today's custom tactics and instructions, which yielded us our most optimal efficient return for all of those stats. Little disclaimer is that all of this was done in Division 1 rivals at around 2300 skill rating, and the same team was used for the entirety of the month, so there are as little variables as possible. And I have to say that because I did see a couple comments saying that it's normal for my stats to get worse the more I win and the higher in skill rating I go, because it's true and it's also not true. For me, it's not true because I'm at a skill rating where it caps. It doesn't matter how high you go, the level doesn't get harder, right? But if you're at around 1500 skill rating and then you work up to 1900, yeah, it's gonna get harder. But for me, above a certain cap, it doesn't matter. It's gonna be the whole consistent set of opponents, which also is why I thought of this idea. It kind of makes it a lot easier. Without further ado though, let's start taking a look at my final tactics, because that's essentially why you guys are all here. Now we're gonna start off with this page because it's the least important one, bar one detail. All right, as you can see, defensive style, I ended up landing on balance. Of course, I suggest that if you guys are interested in trying these tactics out, try everything else for yourself. I'm just not a fan of everything else bar balanced, because it's either CPU oriented and it does everything for you, or it drains too much stamina, or it's just drop back. I don't want to play drop back. Balanced is always where I land in pretty much any formation. Now width, I landed on 4. 4-3-3-5 is naturally a wide formation because you've got wingers, but that's only offensively. Defensively, it's pretty much like anything else. And I wouldn't go too wide because that doesn't really ever translate into anything good, especially in a meta where the center is where people want to get. 5 is perfect to start with, and I suggest you all do that. I just ended up landing on 4 for whatever reason. It's just close enough to be balanced, but gives me a little more narrow-minded defensive mentality, which is essentially what matters the most. Now, depth, again, this is something that you guys should try for yourself. I tried, low depth, but as a style in general, that's just not how I like to play. I don't like my opponents to go up and down around my box for too long, which would make you think, why didn't you go for 8 or 7 or 9 depth? Well, because of offensively, how we play this formation would leave us a little bit too vulnerable at the back, so 5 is a perfect place to start. Definitely test it out yourself. Now, the one detail that I think matters the most is the offensive style, but again, this was tailored to my play style and it might not have the same result for you, but statistically speaking, fast build up gave us our best return, and with the instructions that we have, which I'll show you in a minute, this is what helped us the most. I tried every single other mentality, and we played dozens of games with each, but for me, the most efficient that gave us the best optimal return was fast build up. Balanced was in second place, but it wasn't really close. Last place by far was possession, too slow, and fast build-up was the best, which obviously helps a formation like the 4-3-3 in transition without making it excessive where all your players run away. Again, in width, I like to match it with my defensive width for 1, and for 2, it makes it a little bit more narrow as to when the defense transitions for your opponent and your winger is wide open. It's a little easier to see the winger, but also not too narrow to the point where there's no point in even playing 4-3-3 anymore, because if you're not going to make use of the width in 4-3-3, why are you playing 4-3-3? Just play 4-3-2-1 or something. Yeah, the 4 width is where we fell. Players in the box, I ended up putting 7, but again, for these, test it out yourself. Start 5-5, see how it goes. The only thing I would put in from this page is fast build up. Now, instructions. the final instructions that we built were none on the keeper and center back as usual. And it might come to a surprise if you've been following this series, but we ended up putting stay back while attacking on our fullbacks. Believe it or not, this is not for anything defensive. We played with balance the whole month and it was fine defensively. This is more a offensive tinkering issue, because unbalanced, the fullbacks actually play pretty much as offensive fullbacks, and they go even further down the field than wingers, especially because wingers have a specific instruction that leads to this. But so for the reason of fast build-up being the best and stay back while attacking being added, this was done to ensure a better balance. If I need them to go up, I can just do that on the D-pad myself. And most importantly, this gives me an outlet against very deep defenses, right? If the defenses are deep and my offensive fullbacks decide to go deeper than my wingers, we are in trouble. Now, in terms of the CDM, was man mark, stay back while attacking, and cover center. Obviously, if you guys don't enjoy man mark, you can try and balance first. Try cutting passing lanes. I feel like this is very much down to preference in this formation. This just ended up working for us, but for sure, I would add stay back while attacking and cover center. Now, your left center mid is going to be your other CDM-ish type of player. Usually, we kind of all have two central players who can play CM, or both of them can kind of play CDM, especially paired together. But you're more malleable, if you will. CDM will be your left center mid. Obviously, De Jong is better at going forwards than Allen, in my opinion. And then your offensive-minded player will go as the third slot in your midfield, and he's on get forward and free roam. For this position, I did also try adding getting into the box for crosses, but that really didn't do much for us. This combination of just the get forward and the free roam makes him go forward enough to be a second striker, but not too much to the point where he becomes obsolete and hard to find. He completes your attack, adds a lot of good linking up play, and is always where you kind of need him to be. He's like the extra ace in the hole for your offense. Now, the center forward is your best player. He can pass, he can shoot, he can dribble. Baggio is that guy for us. On false 9, don't be afraid of the false 9 instruction. Yes, he drops deep to give you an outlet, but he's still, after, he drops deep and you play it away, he still works his way back up, back into that center forward / striker position and makes runs in behind. Now, both of our wingers are on free roam, and here we tried a lot. We tried adding getting in behind on top of that, but they run away. It's not efficient. You don't want them always running away from you. You want them to sort of know when to be there for you, and that comes when they're on balanced support. I did try come short, and I did try target man, but neither of those, were really just efficient. Balanced ended up working the best. Now, I also tried to do getting into the box for crosses and stay on the edge for crosses. But again, in this one, I thought that balance just gave me the best balance. There you go. And you never want extremes for certain instructions. Now, the reason we ended up landing on free roam is because on free roam, their IQ was a lot better, a lot higher. They knew when to cut inside. They didn't always cut inside. Sometimes they would cut inside so much that they were pretty much playing in central positions alongside my Baggio and enabled link on play. It was very contextual, and I enjoyed that. They did a better job at cutting inside with the free roam instructions than when I tried the actual cut inside instruction. Stay wide is obviously one that on paper would make sense. If you tell them to stay wide, you hope that the wingers would then preoccupy your opponent's wide defenders, and it gives space for your CMs to push up, but that doesn't really translate as much. And so because of FIFA's lack of IQ, free roam just ended up being the best for me, better than balanced as well, and I would highly suggest trying this one out. And so this is how the series ends, guys. I appreciate all of you guys who are here for the ride. It was definitely a new and interesting experience. I learned a lot while doing this. I'm not sure how we're going to do it for the future, if we're going to do another one of these or how we're going to approach it, but at the very least, I hope this was entertaining for you guys and enjoy trying these tactics. Hopefully they work out for you, but obviously the game is the game. These will never be able to be as meta as a 4-4-2, a 5-3-2, or 3-5-2, just because of the limitations of the actual game, the lack of second man press. You can't cut up passing lanes. You guys know everything about this game that kind of limits it, but it is what it is. Let me know your thoughts if you do try it out, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.